all for having me, and thanks to the rest of the NSC organization for having me, and thank you students for coming to the presentation. So I appreciate that. So today I wanted to talk about domestic violence, how it impacts our community, and how you can help with our mission to end the epidemic of domestic violence. As Noelle mentioned, my name is Pam Bernhardt, and I am the volunteer manager. So if you choose to do an internship with SafeNest, then I would be your point of contact for that. And I'm here to answer any and all questions regarding that and the opportunities that we have for our interns. So first I wanted to just kind of go over SafeNest. As I mentioned, our mission is to end the epidemic of domestic violence. We started in 1977, and we opened the first shelter for abused women and children in Southern Nevada. And in 1977, we also started our crisis line, which both are still in operation today. So today we have grown and grown, and we are the most comprehensive provider for domestic violence services in Nevada. We also, on our property, we do the confidential space for women and children, but we also know that men are also victims of domestic violence. And so we do have off-site housing available for male victims. We have a hotel program that we do, and then we also partner with Shared Village, which is formerly known as Veterans Village. So we have a wraparound service support where we're unique, where we not only help the victims of domestic violence, but we have a batterers treatment program. So our goal is really to prevent domestic violence before it begins by education with our youth programming and our batterers counseling. So we have youth programming, we have a Lean On Me, where we go into the schools and talk about healthy relationships when we are in schools. Currently, that's on hold for the pandemic. But when we are back in schools, we do our Lean On Me program. We have a program called Camp Hope, which is another way that you can get involved, where we look for counselors that can come out for camp counselors for a week in camp at Utah. And we have a program for the kids there. As I mentioned, we have our batterers counseling and then other education. We protect by having our crisis hotline, our confidential shelter. We help in the courts by helping with preparing emergency temporary protection orders and support through the whole criminal justice case. And then we also do empowerment through our victims counseling, immigration assistance. We have a transitional housing support group, resume assistance, employer assistance. So those are the ways that our wraparound supportive services help those experiencing domestic violence. So here's a little bit of statistics. 76% of children that come from an abusive home will repeat the cycle. The most dangerous time in a domestic violence relationship is when the victim is preparing to leave the home. And SafeNest, we support our victims as they become survivors and help them thrive. So this is kind of a map of where we are throughout the valley. We kind of have offices and satellite offices in very strategic places. Our main office is off of 3900 Meadows, which is right in the Meadows Mall parking lot. Across the parking lot, it's a big brick building. I think it used to be a bank at one point in time. We also have an office at the Immigration Home Foundation, at the Shade Tree. We have a donation center. We have an advocate office in the Summerlin Command Center. We are in the district attorney's office. We help with the court, and we also are out in Boulder City. So we currently right now employ about 82 people, and we have over 200 volunteers spread out the valley through our 10 different locations. So in Las Vegas, we are, unfortunately, Nevada has the distinction of always being in the top 10 for places for women being murdered by men. So we have that unfortunate distinction. We always kind of fluctuate between number 2 and number 5, depending on the year, unfortunately. So our goal is to be out of the top 10. So we definitely, that's a top 10 list we don't want to find ourselves in, which we have been. So we receive about 72,000 domestic violence calls that 911 gets across the valley. That's just in Las Vegas itself, not the entire state of Nevada. 26 domestic violence arrests occur every single day in the valley. And the district attorney's office gets between 10 and 20 new court cases daily. And again, like I mentioned, that Nevada finds ourselves on the top 10 list year after year after year. So in 2019, SafeNest, we were able to provide service to 20,000 individuals. We provided 100,000 people services. We answered over 15,000 crisis calls, and we provided 24,000 nights of emergency shelter. So that is a lot of services, and we touch a lot of lives in our valley, and we can't do it without your help. So what I'm here to talk about is the intern volunteer opportunity called our PS417 program and our DV Academy. And so what that is PS417, PS stands for Project Safe, and 417 is the call sign that the police use when they go out on a domestic violence call. So this program was actually developed by Metro Police Department, and they asked us as SafeNest if we would partner with them, and we said absolutely yes we would. So what happens is the police get a call for when a domestic violence situation happens in our valley. The police go out. If there's been an arrest or a probable cause to make an arrest, then the police dispatch one of our PS417 first responders to the scene. So the PS417 first responder goes out to the scene, meets with the victim, talks with the victim, kind of see what their immediate needs are, and we provide them information and resources to get them the help that they need. We are armed with a SPA pamphlet. We call it a SPA pamphlet because it looks like a SPA card. It's very discreet. It doesn't look like, hey, you're a victim of domestic violence, call this number. It looks very discreet, so a victim feels comfortable having it on their person without having the, sometimes that can inflame the abuser if they see information like that when they get back home. So as I mentioned, we can do emergency shelter. We can help them with an emergency order of protection. There's all kinds of things that our PS417 first responders can help with and start them on their road to become from a victim to a survivor. All of our volunteers and interns first go through a DV Academy. We just don't have people go out on their own without training. So we provide a training that's actually accredited. So that looks great on a resume that you had advocate training if that's something that you are pursuing as a career. So we do these about once a month. The structure is for the DV Academy, we call them cohorts. You sign up for a cohort. We have a kickoff weekend. Currently right now, all of our training is via Zoom. So we have a kickoff weekend that you do a Saturday and Sunday. Then we have you paired with a paid advocate or a veteran volunteer, and then you go out onto the scene of a domestic violence call and respond to the victim. The police are always there. We're never there without police, so we always have that extra layer of protection if needed. So you go through the DV Academy, sign up for the trainings. The PS417 program is 24/7, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You respond from your home. where you live, and you pick the area where you live. So you're not, if you live in Henderson, we're not having you drive up to Nellis. So you kind of pick the area where you live. And then they're 4-hour shifts. So it's very flexible with your schedule. That I think we're unique in our internships because we don't give you a schedule of where it is and a typical 9 to 5. You pick your own schedule and we track your hours. We track the hours through our program called Better Impact. And Noelle has access to that as well as I do, and we'll and then you will as well, so you can see where your hours are and how many hours that you have done. So with that, this work is very, very important. We just received the numbers from the police department that the numbers and rates are coming down for homicide, which is great. This literally saves lives. So all studies show that if a person that's experiencing crisis, if they're responded to with resources and help available to them within the first 24 hours of a critical or a crisis incident, they're 70% more likely to go seek the help and resources that are presented to them that they received on the scene. So it's very important work. It literally saves lives, and we are hopeful and wanting you to consider us for an internship opportunity. So our volunteers are very passionate, they're dedicated, they're courageous. It's important work, but it's fulfilling work. We do offer. Here's our hotline number and our website. Our hotline, they can also text the hotline if they don't feel comfortable speaking out loud. This is my information. As far as resume building, this looks great on a resume. Like I said, we're one of 2 agencies in Nevada that have the accredited training through the National Advocate Credentialing Program. We're very flexible, and then we also hire our volunteers. So if we don't have a job opening, maybe right this moment, we're always expanding our programs, which leads to job opportunities, and we definitely hire our volunteers. So with that, I just wanted to know if I could open this up for questions, and let's see, I'll look in the chat here.
There was one question that said, are you still going out during COVID?
Yeah, so we have not shut down any of our services where we take pride in that due to COVID. So what we were doing to go out, we kind of COVID modify it. We used to go into the victims' homes and sit down with them on their couch or at the kitchen table. But right now we're going out with our mask on, we're staying outside, we're visiting with them either, outside on their porch or what have you, and we're maintaining our social distance. So that's how our protocol right now during COVID. So does anybody else have any other questions about PS417? Once you get through the DV Academy, because we do a background check, you sign a confidentiality agreement, then you're you're eligible to, if you're interested in the court, to shadow and help out in the court situation. Right now it's a little different because the courts are still closed due to COVID, so everything is telephonic. So it's not in person, but once some of those regulations loosen back up, then we have that. We always need help in our shelter. So if you're interested in case management, you can come to our shelter and help with that. We have our transitional housing team. So once you get through the DV Academy, that kind of opens more doors up for different ways where you can put your intern hours. And like I said, we're very flexible in that, and that we give you an array of choices and opportunities. Let's see, is there another question?
There is another question. Are there continuous training after the DV Academy?
So there is on-the-job training. So once you complete the DV Academy and you start going out on these PS417 shifts, that's you're in the field on-the-job training with either an experienced volunteer or a paid PS417 staff that they will, like, first you'll probably, observe a couple of calls, and then you might want to start taking the lead on the call, so that we have that sort of on the job training before you are out on your own. But again, it's not really on your own because you would be there with the police officer. And then as far as the courts and in our shelter, then it's on the job training, so to speak.
Somebody else was asking, how does, if after volunteering, how does hiring happen if possible? And are you looking to hire?
So we always have something going on. So we put that out through Indeed, and we always give preference to our volunteers. So they would apply just like anybody else, but we would know that they were a volunteer, and so they would get those resumes would get looked at first before we go outside the SafeNest circle. So you would just, when we have an opening, if you're in the job market, you would set that to, an alert on Indeed. That's how we do all of our advertising, through Indeed. Set that alert up and apply, and shoot me an email that you've applied so I can get that to our HR department. And those resumes definitely get looked at first.
We have two other questions. One of them is, so when do we volunteers, we choose our areas we help with, or volunteer first, or volunteer our first responders? I think they want clarification on how the process works in terms of picking their area, and then understanding how they go with first responders in the training, and then when they go on their own.
Yeah, so the DV Academy starts off with your kickoff weekend, which is a Saturday, Sunday via Zoom. And then there's an online component that there's units that you complete online via our management system called Better Impact. So you would do that, and then in the DV Academy, you are trained on how to pick your areas. And so while you're taking the DV Academy, you would be you would sign up for 6 shadowing opportunities, and you pick the area of which you live. So for me, I live close to downtown, so I would pick the downtown area, and then I would sign up, and I can sign up for any shift that I want. It's a 4-hour shift, and they start at 3 a.m. So we have a 3 a.m. to 7 a.m., 7 a.m. to 11 a.m., etc. So they're 4-hour shifts 24/7, starting at 3 a.m. in the morning. So you would pick that, and you would go out on these initial 6 calls and you would be paired with a lead. And then if there's a call in your area during your 4 hours, they call you up and they say, hey, there's been a domestic violence call. Here's the address. And that you would drive out to the address, and you would meet with our staff or volunteer, and then you would approach the scene. So after the DV Academy is completed and you have your initial 6, we come back for what's called an advanced training. So there's 3 dates that you would sign up for: our kickoff weekend, and then the advanced training. And then you would come back for the advanced training, and it's an online Zoom training. And then after that, you would do more PS417 shifts. But then after that, you're also eligible to sign up in different areas via Better Impact. And we would get into more how Better Impact works and how you sign up for your shifts in the DV Academy. Did that answer that?
Yeah, I think it did. If it did not, please ask another question. The next question was, when is the next DV training?
So our next DV Academy cohort is, the kickoff weekend is November 14th and 15th. We have information in Handshake, but then you also have my information here if you want to email me as well. And then after that, we have a cohort in December. And then we haven't finalized our 2021 calendar yet because we're hoping, well, we're getting dual reactions. So we're kind of liking the initial training via Zoom because it can reach more people and you can do it from the comfort of where you are, but we want to do maybe the advanced training in person. So we're kind of waiting to see what's going to happen after the first of the year before we put that calendar out. But we'll definitely have a DV Academy in January.
Another question is, are you able to volunteer in more than one area?
Absolutely. But we don't, so at SafeNest, one of our foundations is self-care. So you are absolutely willing to, welcome to volunteer and explore different areas that we have, but we also don't want you to feel overwhelmed either. So yes, you can, but it would be tempting since we're in a lot of different spaces and we're 24 hours to want to sign up for hours and hours at a time. Please don't do that because I know you're probably busy with school, and if some of you are working as well, and then this, so please don't overwhelm yourself because it would be really easy to do so. And since these are 4-hour shifts, you can do, if you wanted to do like a Saturday and you wanted to do 2 4-hour shifts to do an 8-hour shift, you're more than welcome to do so, but I wouldn't recommend doing anything over that.
We had another question on how much time does it take to finish all the training?
So to finish all the training, you would do the initial 6 weeks and then you would have the comeback for the advance, and then that would pretty much be the end of your training. And it's kind of self-guided because sometimes if you sign up for all 6 shifts, you might not get called out all 6 times, because that means that to get called out would mean that a domestic violence call is happening in your area that you signed up for during the time that you signed up. So not all the time do you go out, but we still give you credit for that 4 hours because you are committing your time to us. So it's kind of like this double-edged sword where we want you to get the experience, but that means somebody has gotten hurt and the police are involved for you to get that experience. So even if you don't get called out, you would still get that 4 hours credit because we're restricting your movement. We're expecting you to be ready to go at a moment's notice. So that means you're not going out to dinner, you're not going, now that the bars are open, you're not going out to the bar if you're of age. So you're kind of staying where you are in your home waiting for a call.
So does anybody else have any more questions? I'm not seeing anything else in the chat, Pam.
Okay, it says
Just got one.
hired advocates 24. So the hired advocates, they have a shift. So yeah, we have a day shift, a swing shift, and a graveyard shift. So they work on a 24, just like police work, our advocates work, and our hotline. So not only do we have our advocates that go out on call and they go to the scene of a domestic violence call, we have our hotline where people are calling in. So maybe the police aren't involved at that point, but they have questions, or they need a safe place to stay, or they have questions, or they're, there's all kinds of reasons why people call the hotline. So that's 24 hours as well. So the hotline staff run a 24-hour schedule, as well as the shelter. We also have our 77-bed shelter that is a paid position as well, which runs off a 24-hour schedule. So pretty much the bulk of work that we do, sans counseling and admin, is off of a 24-hour clock. So the counseling is a little more traditional business hours. They do, but they do have groups at night. So, so if you're looking at that route, you know, let us know if you want to see a counseling session. We can maybe arrange for you to sit into a group if it's okay with the rest of the people, if that's a career path that you're looking for. Anybody else? Well, I want to.
Somebody did ask me something privately. Do we have to finish the training before being called out? Like out, I guess I'm assuming out to go see somebody. Also, is there a certain amount of hours we need to reach every month?
So if you're doing an internship, it would depend on how many hours that you need in the semester. And so your training hours and the time that you're shadowing with PS417, those get counted as your hours. So once you go out, so when you're in the DV Academy and you're signing up for those initial 6, those all count towards your intern hours.
What about if they're just volunteering?
They're just volunteering. We ask that you, after your training, that you commit to doing 3 shifts per month. So 12 hours a month is what we like. And then again, I just want to plug our accreditation. So after you complete the academy, then you can send your information to the National Advocate Accrediting Program, and we'll give you information on that. And then you can add that to your resume that you took a certified training as an advocate, if that's a career path that you're going through.
Does anybody have any more questions? Somebody has one. It says, for the DV Academy, do we do activities or is it mainly informational sessions?
As far as the layout of the DV Academy, we do with Zoom. We're limited to what our DV Academy looks a little different on Zoom than it does in person, but there's breakout sessions. So we have guest speakers, we have discussions where we highly encourage group participation. We do breakout rooms, we do role playing. So we try to make it as interactive as possible, even though it's Zoom. And so our DV Academies, the more participation and interaction that we get, then the better that is for the whole experience. But we used to do, and hopefully when it comes back, we have an activity called In Her Shoes, which if you haven't done that before, it's a simulation of what it's like to be a person that is experiencing domestic violence. And it's pretty powerful, and it doesn't really translate well via Zoom. So once we're out of COVID, hopefully, you know, that sooner than later, then we'll probably get everybody back together to do In Her Shoes, because it's really worthwhile if you haven't done it. But like I said, we use the breakout sessions and role play. So we try to make it as interactive as possible. And then we have the 6 modules online that you would take. That is a series of videos and TED Talks and information that you would read through. And then there's a series of questions at the end of each module.
Great, thank you. I'm gonna stop recording, Pam.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody. I really appreciate it. And I hope